Now, a WFSB Plus original. This is the Capitol Rundown.
Welcome to the Capitol Rundown. It is our exclusive streaming show with politics that matter to you from both sides of the aisle. I'm Kara Sundlin, and I'm joined by our insiders, Themis Klarides, the former Republican House leader, and Jimmy Tickey, a Democratic strategist. Full disclosure, we weren't going to come back till next week, but there's so much going on in the world. We have convened Capitol Rundown, and we are back because the beginning of the year is coming on strong. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So let's start with the governor's race. We just got notified that Betsy McCoy has officially filed to run. That just happened. So how does that shake up the race with specifically other Republicans, but also with maybe what Governor Lamont will have to do? Let's start with you on the Republican side, since she is a 77-year-old Republican with quite the history, Themis.
She is. I actually know her. She's a very impressive woman. She's very smart. She's very educated. She was lieutenant governor of New York. But I think the big question here will be, will President Trump endorse her? And if so, that will really throw a monkey wrench into the whole Republican governors convention, and then the primary more particularly, because we know, for good or for bad, as of late, if the president endorses you, you are very likely to win a primary. So she can get the 15% at the convention this summer to qualify to be in a primary, then, you know, all bets are off as to who wins a primary in August.
Okay. Well, her campaign, she's talking about separating people who own houses versus people who rent. So she's going to fight, quote unquote, rich boy Lamont, lefty Lamont. Jimmy Tickey, what is your take on Betsy McCoy's entrance to the race?
Well, that certainly sounds like Donald Trump, doesn't it? I think she'll certainly play to President Trump's endorsement, as was mentioned. So often you see in these races currently where Republicans are looking for one thing, and that is the blessing of Donald Trump. And maybe that works in some parts of the country, but here in Connecticut, where our governor and Democratic leaders have led with fiscal stability and paying down pension debt, in having almost a $5 billion rainy day fund, and being very responsive to the needs of residents here in Connecticut, I don't think that a Trump endorsement in Connecticut will be helpful. In fact, I think it will be very harmful. But for Republicans whose party has been taken over by the MAGA wing of their party, a Trump endorsement is very powerful. And so by my count, you have three announced Republican candidates for governor. There's one more exploring. So it does seem that the field for governor is growing this week, and we'll see if any more enter. But it is going to be an interesting next couple of weeks as Republican candidates will be battling for delegate support at their own convention and then through a primary. On the Democratic side, you know, we really are unified. We are working together with our governor, with the full complement of our constitutional officers, because it's a really significant year. And I think voters are smart and they understand that federal, state, and local, it's all connected. And when Donald Trump does something harmful federally, like cutting programs, cutting funding, that has an impact on states, and it has an impact in Connecticut. And that's why good Democratic leadership in this age of Trump is so important, so that we can fight back against some of those detrimental cuts, programming cuts that really hurt people and really prioritize affordability.
Let me just follow up on Governor Lamont. We had news, we reported this yesterday in our newscast, that he is taking some funding, raising some monies. To be clear, Governor Lamont doesn't need anyone's money, right? So why, as we talk about that he's raising funds, is this important? Jimmy, I want to start with you on that one.
Sure, yes. So in Connecticut, we have a clean elections program, and that allows folks to raise small dollar contributions, and then they basically get a state grant. And it really has helped to take a lot of the big money out of politics while still being competitive. But I think many that follow politics knows that Ned Lamont in his various runs for various offices has always self-funded. He has the capacity to do that. But even still, he is open to receiving small dollar contributions, which are very powerful. So as someone wants to support the governor, they can go on, they can make a contribution to his website, just as you would to anyone else running for local office. He doesn't necessarily need to emphasize that, but it is an option if people do want to support the governor with grassroots support.
So, Themis, he's trying to show grassroots support. Is that important in today's politics?
Well, it's very important in today's politics. And that's why you see a lot of self-funders, people who have the ability to just write a big check for themselves, which Governor Lamont has shown that he's done in the past, and I think he plans on doing this time. It's important to go out there and have the people in the diners and people at the coffee shops and people at your local restaurants understand that, listen, even though I can't give you $2,500, I can give you $5, I can give you $10. And when you get hundreds and thousands of those types of donations, typically people do not part with their own money unless they are supportive of a candidate, even if it's a small amount. That's why small donations are so important. And I think that's why Governor Lamont is going out there now. I will say, though, that Governor Lamont has been very, very involved in the grassroots of the state of Connecticut since he's been elected. Whether you like him or you don't, he is everywhere all the time. He's at ribbon cuttings. He's at diners, as we talked about. He's everywhere. He's at school openings. He's all over the place. And I think that a lot of people are very happy to see him on a regular basis. And that's why I think going out there to get these small donations will probably prove to be fruitful for him.
Yeah, I can see Penelope's everywhere all the time, too.
No.
She wants to get in, you know. Everybody's got their
She has a lot
here
to
on
say.
the Capitol
She has a
Rundown.
lot to say. She has a lot to say.
All right, you just not
She's a loudmouth Greek girl too. So
okay, yeah, okay. So let's move on. We can't turn on the TV without seeing ICE arrests. And I'm only smiling because of Penelope, not because of the topic.
Right.
I think wherever you stand on this, it's difficult to see these in Minneapolis. There's such unrest. We had a situation in the capital city of Hartford that they're still looking into, where a van drove into some folks, and Hartford's Mayor Aruna Nawarampalem saying that we will not have chaos here, and really putting his foot down. I don't know what local officials can do, and I know that people are standing on both sides of this. But Jimmy, I want to start with you. Today, Senator Richard Blumenthal announced a bill that would allow folks to sue feds for infringing on their constitutional rights, which I guess under the current law, you can sue the state, but you can't sue federal governments for constitutional infringement, so he wants to change that. As far as how this plays out here in Connecticut, what do we need to understand, or what do you want to see happen with how Connecticut handles ICE in our cities?
Right. Well, first, the ICE of yesteryear is not the ICE that is happening today. Under the presidency of Donald Trump, ICE looks a lot different and acts a lot differently in the streets, masked, armed individuals who are in the streets across the country, really because this president has weaponized so many of these federal agencies and is using ICE to do exactly that. And increasingly, ICE is not actually helping go after criminals. They're not helping with safety. They are helping to incite some of the very strong feelings and the chaos that is happening where President Trump sends them. You know, here in Connecticut, we work with our local and state police, and we trust our local and state police to do this work. And yes, to go after criminals, but we do not need ICE here in Connecticut. In fact, laws were passed here in Connecticut to ensure that local and state police do not information share with ICE. And so you're seeing some states step up as much as they legally can to say we do not need ICE here. We have local and state police, and for the states that have county government, there's even additional layers of security, of preparedness, people who are actually trained to be in their communities, community building, and to be protecting individuals throughout their states, like here in Connecticut. So Connecticut is not collaborating with ICE. We do not welcome ICE here. We trust our local and state police to do this work. And what happened in Minnesota was a tragedy, and often you see that ICE is creating this chaos in the streets, and we need more trained personnel like we do have in our local and state police here in Connecticut.
And at least in our courthouses, we passed a policy in September that bans law enforcement from wearing masks or obscuring their identities. So if you are an ICE agent in Connecticut, you cannot wear a mask, at least in a courthouse.
Right.
So that's different.
That's right.
Different than, we're seeing a lot of masked agents, and there's controversy of whether or not that's okay. Themis, at the same time, a lot of people voted for the president because they wanted immigration to change. They wanted illegal immigration to stop. They wanted people who came here illegally, especially those breaking laws, to be sent home or sent out of the U.S. But it seems like Republicans are also breaking on this, as they didn't expect it to look like this.
Well, Jimmy, I love you, but you gave your answer starting in the middle. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, the problem we're having right now is there is a perfect storm with all this. First of all, under President Biden, we had droves and droves of people coming into this country that were not supposed to be here. Now we have President Trump, who clearly is taking a very aggressive stance in regards to getting people out that are not supposed to be here. You have ICE agents who are probably not being trained in a way that is as thorough as necessary. So that adds one thing to the problem. Then you have, an overzealous administration, but in their defense, they've been put behind the 8 ball by having all these people in this country that aren't supposed to be here. And then you have the Democrats who, as Jimmy just said, we support our state and local police. You support your state and local police unless they're doing something you don't want them to do. That's why you have sanctuary cities where you're telling people we're not going to support federal police. Now, listen, law enforcement is law enforcement. We cannot have people, and Democrats in particular, that are telling citizens, do not go along with what law enforcement says. We have a perfect storm here, and it needs to be fixed. There's no excuse for anybody dying like Renee Good did. It was a tragedy. It's a horrible situation. But she was also involved in groups that had non-cooperation training. So how is that helpful in any way, shape, or form in making this country safer? It's not.
So we'll leave it there on that topic. I want to move on to Iran, which a lot of Americans might have just been celebrating Christmas, not paying too much attention at the end of December. They're certainly paying attention now, although there's some criticism that it's not getting the attention that the Palestinian protest did, or we don't have people in the streets and on campuses protesting Iranians being shot and killed, which at this moment, I'm just curious, is this a bipartisan issue? Is this something that America wants to see, a free Iran? Are Democrats and Republicans going to work together? What's at stake here? Because I know probably everyone says we don't want people dying in the streets of Iran who are fighting for freedom. Jimmy, let me start with you.
Right. No, you certainly don't want that. You don't want to see people dying in the way that they did, and you don't want to see what has happened in the last couple of weeks. But we also need a level-headed and smart administration who will go about these sorts of things, diplomacy, and work around the world in a lot of these areas with a level head. I mean, one day, the president is threatening some sort of action. We've seen the threats that he has made with Greenland. We have seen what he has done with Venezuela. It is an extremely overzealous administration, and with not the most competent cabinet secretaries. And so while he said that one day, the threat that perhaps maybe they would come in or there would be some strong action, but then by the next day saying that, he was pulling back on that and that, he was keeping in touch, but not going to take any further action. So these things are changing on a daily basis. And we just need to ensure that, Congress is at the table if there is any action, and that it's unilaterally not up just to one person, which is the president of the United States.
And Themis, I want to go to you as well, because we don't really know what the president is going to do. We saw him put on social, help is on the way. Then we heard him say from Iranian officials that the killing has stopped. I interviewed an expert, a former UConn dean yesterday, said you can't believe anything that comes out of Iran. Where do we go from here as Americans value freedom?
Well, I think whether we're Republican or Democrats, we do value freedom, and we want to see the good people of Iran free and be able to live a life that they want to live. They want women to be free and children to be free and religious freedom. So I do think at that high level, we all feel the same in regards to that. I mean, clearly what the president did in Venezuela thrilled the Venezuelan people, because they have a dictator there who's killing our people and people all over the world. I do agree with the inconsistencies that we see from him. And I also agree with the fact that today Iran may have said, okay, we're not going to execute people. Therefore, President Trump says, okay, then I'm not going in. Tomorrow that could change. An hour from now that could change. And that's the problem with Iran. You can't trust what they say. You can't trust the information. They're shutting down the internet. People are there. They're now saying that they're not going to execute people because they're keep holding people hostage in their own homes, which is a whole nother problem we have. And that's, Kara, I think to your point, the Iranian expert you spoke with yesterday said you can't trust the information that's coming out because it's certainly not a transparent government. And I think it's going to be a day-to-day thing in regards to that. But it's our job as Americans, I believe, to do what we can to promote freedom around this world, and that's including Iran.
Well, and the expert, I want to, if people are watching on WFSB Plus, if you go under WFSB Plus exclusives, you can hear my 30-minute conversation where we kind of just take a very broad view and then try to understand what's going on here. I will say that if you don't have time to listen to that, he said, I said, what should we do? And the Iranian American, who is also an expert in Middle Eastern policy and diplomacy, said he doesn't think we should have boots on the ground at all, but that we should be sending tech and we should let the Iranian people know that we stand with them. Is there agreement with that, bipartisan agreement, that America should be standing up and saying we stand with Iranian people?
I believe so.
Yes, and we do, as was noted, we do. I mean, one of our ideals as a country, and it does transcend politics, is that we do believe in democracy, a true democracy, and we believe in freedom of every individual and freedom of your country.
So we'll see what happens over the next few days. I know this is a very volatile situation. I want to come back here to home, really micro. Hartford is now the hottest real estate market in the nation. Hartford has it. It's for real. Zillow has said it's the hottest real estate market, specifically the west end of Hartford, where it's known for a lot of home ownership, that area near the governor's mansion and Elizabeth Park, for a whole bunch of reasons. There's not inventory, and apparently it may seem expensive to a lot of folks here, but it's cheaper than New York and Boston. But how do we capitalize on this? We have some good news about Connecticut, that our real estate is hot, which is spilling over into neighboring towns. So what do we do to capitalize on this moment right now, Themis?
Well, I think we see restaurants opening all the time. We see businesses opening all the time. I think that all trickles down. The more people that move in, or the more people that are going to restaurants, they're going to coffee shops, they're going to eat the best pizza in the country in Connecticut. Yes. They're getting more involved in the community. They're giving more to charities, right? I mean, this whole thing trickles down with the more people that are here. I mean, and they said that Hartford has the worst housing supply deficit in the United States of America since COVID. 66% of the houses go over asking. And I've had family members that have actually been looking at homes and they would put in an offer, the next day it would go. So, I mean, this is good news, but we just have to make sure that we continue as a state to promote this state, because we are centrally located. I mean, we're between New York and Boston. We have a lot of things going on, in the state itself. And so people are seeing that because they can't afford housing in other places. And Hartford has now found its niche, and it beat out Buffalo. Now it's going to be the number one instead of the number two, I think.
Yeah, and Jimmy, the other thing, we talk a lot about affordable housing, which actually Betsy McCoy is saying that she wants to have a lot to say about that. But, yes, it's great that if you're a seller, your property's worth a lot of money, but still very difficult for people who want to buy property here in Connecticut to actually buy a house, get an offer accepted, as Themis was referencing.
Right. No, it is. Housing is very expensive. That is why we had a bipartisan bill in the legislature this last go around, which would hopefully add some more housing, not just affordable, but workforce, mid-level housing, so that young people might be able to get their first place and live on their own, or as senior citizens are thinking about maybe downsizing and they don't need the home with 3 bedrooms, they can downsize in their own place, and that frees up their home for a family that might be looking to expand. But, there was a time several years ago where everyone everyone was talking about how everyone was leaving Connecticut and businesses were leaving. And just as a young person, and I was younger then, but still as a young person, it's really great to see young people coming to our cities, coming to Connecticut, businesses being created, headquarters moving to Connecticut, more and more people that want to be here. I think COVID certainly helped accelerate that, but Connecticut really is a great place to be with all 4 seasons, so much tourism happening, so many great things that are being created around the state. And it's really heartening to see the pride coming back in Connecticut, people being very proud to live here. Look, there are always things to work on and there are always improvements to be made. But when you look at how people want to be in Connecticut and how the whole state is growing, but particularly this greater Hartford region, really topping the list across the whole entire country, it's really exciting because all of that has a multiplier effect, as Themis said. And so this will lead to maybe more businesses, more people walking, more nonprofits, philanthropy, more giving, more connectedness in a community of people who really want to be here, and really important community building as our towns and our cities continue to grow.
Yeah, important that we think of ourselves as a region. I know we have our 169 little towns, but it's good for the region when there's good, positive news about Connecticut. Both sides can agree to that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We agree.
All right. So both of you, Themis, I just want to say I hope you're feeling better. I know you got the flu just like everybody else. There's a lot of flu going around. So
I have the famous tea now. I'm drinking.
Oh, good. The throat coat tea. That's from another show, Kara's Cures. But yes, you need the throat coat tea. For the rest of us, Jimmy, I hope you're taking your elderberry and washing your hands. And thank you both for being here on Capitol Rundown. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And bye, Penelope, too.
She says bye.
Okay. All right, those are our insiders with the Capitol Rundown. I'm Kara Sundlin, and we'll be coming up with more news on Eyewitness News at 4. You can watch the Capitol Rundown every week live here on WFSB Plus at 2 p.m. You can also watch it if you missed the episodes. Go back. They're all on WFSB Plus or WFSB.com and our YouTube channel. Have a great day, everyone. See you in a bit.